Hello and welcome to another episode of Two Gay Peas in a Podcast. I'm Matt.
And I'm Bevan.
And in this podcast, we like to challenge our ways of thinking, to open our minds and to spread light through honest and open conversations. Now this week we're chatting with Jacob Miller, Tassie born, but now in Melbourne. Jacob defines himself as queer, pan, poly and non-binary, which hasn't always been the case. Growing up in Tassie, going through Catholic school, Jacob found it difficult to find their identity and their pride. Jacob is currently Senior Manager of Op Shop for Uniting Vic and is now full of pride in who they are. So what is the place of Op Shops in Jacob's life? What is their Op Shop journey? And how did Op Shops help them find their identity and pride? Welcome to the podcast, Jacob!
What a spill. Thank you. It's lovely to be here.
What a spill. I still stuffed it up. I swear, every single one of these podcasts, I can't get one out without getting a word wrong.
Too many syllables.
So many syllables.
So many questions.
How are you?
I'm so well. I'm so good. I've worn my Op Shop best for you. So
Yes.
ready to go.
We have also worn what makes us feel the best. This little jacket number of mine was my grandmother's. It used to be a jumper, which is this thin, and then I put a zip on it now it's like my favorite thing ever. I'm obsessed.
He's obsessed. Pearls, obviously. I do love the pearls.
Yeah, you got your pearls on.
I do love the pearls. And who doesn't love a leopard print? I mean, come on.
Any animal print.
Animal
Yes.
print.
Look at you in these like large, frilly, sequiny looking things.
Sequins. Yeah.
And almost what looks like a ball gag around your neck, but 3 of them.
Exactly. One for each of us.
Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely.
You're so considerate. Thank you.
Aw.
I try. This little frock showed up on my desk one day, and it's a $7 bargain.
Oh my gosh, you must come across the most incredible pieces working in your job.
Do you do the old, I'm just going to put that aside and we'll have a look at that later, but it's actually for you?
Yeah. Well, I don't get so much time in the shops anymore, but I love it when they send me a text to one of my team and they've found something for me. I'm like, oh, I'll just swing by. Thank you very much.
Now, of course, Jacob, we met you when we were all back in Hobart. We've since moved to Melbourne this year. You've moved to Melbourne a while back as well. And you were working in Op Shops in Hobart down there as well. And you created this incredible space at Hobart City Mission in Moona in Tassie, which... It was so cool. It was like this vintage corner and you had to walk through a wardrobe. I loved that you had like the wardrobe open. You'd knock the back out of it and you go through the wardrobe. It was so awesome.
Which we called back into the closet.
The only time we'll go back into the closet.
Exactly. And then come out looking more fabulous than ever.
Yes. Jacob, why don't you tell us your Op Shop journey and what they mean to you?
Yeah. So I started in Op Shops when I was like between 14 and 17, that kind of crucial high school period, trying to earn some money. My mother was very much like, no, you're 14 now. You can earn your own money. I'm not going to pay for your toiletries anymore. Go and get a job. So I landed in the Op Shop space and wasn't really sure like what I was doing there. It just it wasn't something that I necessarily applied for, but it was suggested that I'd land up in an Op Shop and then kind of really started to discover this den of creativity. So for those of you who know Hobart, I was in North Hobart in this little vintage store that's on the middle of Elizabeth Street there, and really got to see right from the beginning all these fabulous people come in and find their self-expression in the shop, and really kind of challenged my ways of thinking as this little Catholic schoolboy that had my tie done all the way up and my shirt tucked in.
Oh, I love that. It is incredible. I also found so much of my self-expression through secondhand shops. There's just something about them. One of my favorite pieces of clothing hang on the coat hangers in the wardrobe, and like everything else will come and go, but I've got my favorites that are always there. They mean the most to me. Like this one, for example, I pull it out when I just want to feel excited and vibrant and me and want to express who I am. It's amazing what it can do for people. Because
Op Shops have come through a renaissance, right? Because growing up in the 80s for me, there was a real stigma on Op Shops. And, I remember very clearly my mother and I walking down the street one day and she whispered, she goes, there goes my dress. There was a dress. There was a dress that my mum had given to the op shop, and this other lady was wearing it.
I love it.
I know. I was like, okay, cool. But there was a bit of a stigma growing up about you'd never shop there, and there seems to be this renaissance that's happened about from a creative point of view, is that reusing clothing, rehousing, and then finding creativity and expressing it through clothing is really come of age.
Yeah.
Yeah, and a sustainability,
Yes.
we can't continue to produce what we're producing in the fashion industry. So, secondhand and the resharing and the reliving of fashion is the only way forward. And when you look back in our past, that was the norm. It's really only kind of this postmodern era of consumerism that's led us to where we're at. But I wonder, Bev, whether that stigma has existed in queer community. So, there's that generalized stigma of op shopping. But when I kind of look at the queer community back generations and generations, I reckon they would have always been op shoppers.
Correct.
And they were the ones that were finding the old dress and tarting themselves up. And I guess, queer community too haven't necessarily always had the funds to be able to, go and buy things new or the confidence to try on a dress in a mainstream retail store, but you can do that in the op shop because there's it's a different space, it's a different retail space that allows you to just play and be a bit more fun and creative with your self-expression.
Yeah, correct. I was middle class, country Victoria, so that you're correct there. That's probably always been there. And I loved getting in there and dressing and grabbing those things. And the only time we ever got to experience that was when there was like a themed party and you'd go off and go to the op shop to get some things for your themed party. But I felt while walking in there, though, there was this familiarity of being in there and feeling at home with it all. As a little queer teenager in a country town, I did feel that. And I felt, something warm and inviting and absolutely familiar being in there growing up. But you're right. Yeah, it's
generally gravitating toward like the women's wear section as well. There's some great shirts and blouses and jumpers. Yes.
I know. They always have the best clothing.
Yes. In the boys section, it's always like early 2000s camo, big pants and shorts and things sometimes.
Yeah.
But there are some hidden gems though. How have you seen people evolve through coming in and finding their expression through working in op shops? How has that been as an experience for you?
I think probably, the most evolved journey that I've seen is my own, actually. When I kind of first started in an op shop, I was kind of super conservative kid and I'd seen queer people but didn't necessarily connect or identify that they were queer people. But in the op shop, I got to connect and hear people's stories and see people struggle with self-expression and try things out. I remember, some great Tasmanian queers like Martine Delaney and their family in the shop, kind of just trying things on and being fully themselves. And so for me, it was kind of through the parallel stories of op shops that I kind of got to find my self-expression. And I think as a teenager in Tassie, it was certainly it didn't feel appropriate for me to wear a frock walking down the street, but I could kind of play with my fashion in the op shop and it was okay because I was representing this vintage op shop and I could dress the window as queer as I wanted because it was part of the space that was, it was expected in the op shop space, but then kind of outside of that, it wasn't necessarily allowed or expected. And I couldn't play with, femme fashion the same way. So for me, I've kind of gone from this, flannel. I don't know if I was ever a flannel wearer, but
have you got pictures? I want to see that. You in flannel, I want to see it.
I'm sure I could find some photos. I do have a photo of me as a 5-year-old with a mullet somewhere.
Oh, I've got a photo of me with a mullet too. Mullet kid, yes.
We'll add that to the comments underneath.
Absolutely
check that out. But yes, I think that for me, it's kind of my own journey. And then I remember one day, just before COVID, I was walking down the street with my boss, the senior manager of social enterprise, and he held my skirt up as I walked through a puddle, and I was like, "There we go! It's a whole new world from this little kind of suppressed kid in Hobart that wasn't quite sure what was appropriate to wear or not wear, to strutting down the streets of Melbourne with my boss holding my skirt so it didn't get muddy, you know.
Oh, wow. I was going to ask, you've moved to Melbourne. How has that helped you? And what do you love the most about it then? Like you say, it would be harder to do that kind of thing in Hobart. I feel exactly the same because it's home and you feel like you know everyone. And in Tassie, you know, everyone knows everyone. And you're like, I can't walk down the street with a dress on. I don't think I'd be able to do that, or yet anyway. Yeah, how has moving to Melbourne changed you in that way?
Yeah, so I guess there's two iterations of this for me. Like, I first moved to Melbourne about 7 years ago, and subconsciously in my mind, I moved to Melbourne to come out. Like, that wasn't kind of what I was telling everyone. But then my very first day in Melbourne, I was taken down to the Peel, and I literally physically ran into someone on the dance floor, made out with them, and dated for 6 months. So, you know, it changed me dramatically on day one.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the beginning of, and you know, just that whole recreation of self. I was able to be someone that no one knew my backstory, and you know, it wasn't Betty who knew Barbara, who knew my grandmother, that was going to tell a story. It was just a whole new community where I could be myself. So really kind of encouraged me to just create the person that I wanted to be. And then post COVID, I ended up back in Tassie for 2 years, and I was quite unashamedly myself back in Tassie. Then I'd kind of found the confidence to go back, and I was wearing, you know, dresses on the news and in Parliament House and walking down Elizabeth Street. And yeah, I remember Alistair Weiss, who had the Sweet Envy bakery in North Hobart at the time, rang me one day and was like, "I saw you walking down the street and you look so fierce. I thought I was in another city." Like, you know, it just such a good story. But you know, that was kind of bringing the fierceness down, and being the, you know, being the symbol for other people that, you know, that we all exist in all of different forms of humanity, and that's okay even in the streets of Hobart.
It makes us and helps us. And I was thinking about this a little bit before when Matt and I were talking. When we see someone else who's really brave, it really encourages us to then step out ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I think we've been talking a little bit about that, you know, as I identify as he, him. But even for me, wanting to think I may appear weak in my masculinity, and realizing, and we talked about that yesterday, about feeling weak, is that the strength for me is that being authentic and feeling strong, and it's not a weakness at all. And then seeing you do that and strut down like that is revolutionary. It's something that, you know, if you're going to be that brave, then I can jump on that too, and be that person that I feel inside. Yeah. And it's not a weakness at all. It's a strength.
And this is why we do it. We do it because it's fun. We get to express ourselves as well. But we do it for people that find it harder. You know, we have to keep doing it. We have to show courage for ourselves, for people that find it tough to express themselves. We have to keep doing it.
Yeah, one of the stories that sticks out in my mind of I guess being that beacon and that light for someone was, I was in the op shop working, and naturally as a queer person, you're always judging safety and how you might respond or act. And there was a family unit that came up to the register that, you know, looked a little bit rough around the edges and definitely had the flannel and the mullets, and I made some judgments in that moment to butch up a little bit, because I wasn't quite sure how I was going to be received, and so I was kind of like, "G'day, mate."
Yeah.
You know, still in a dress with my nails and whatever else, but, you know, that kind
Want
of
a beer?
false illusion of yeah. And they had them a little 6-year-old, and he was about to ask me a question, and I was bracing for something that was, you know, not appropriate, and something that I wasn't probably comfortable answering in the middle of my work day. And then he was like, "Where did you get your nail polish? Your nails are fabulous." And then the mum was like, "Oh yeah, he makes me paint his nails every other day, and he's got a whole range of colors." And so, you know, I'd kind of misjudged the whole situation. But there was this little kid that kind of had seen that it was okay to be queer and have your nails painted outside of the house. And you know, it was for him this whole breakdown of reality. But for me, it was a breakdown of reality the other way around, because I'd so misjudged the situation.
Oh, gee, I love that. And we as the animals that we are, the evolved animals that we are, we obviously way overthink and overcomplicate everything. And color on a little boy's nails to some people can be like, that's revolting. We should protect boys and we should protect girls and everything like this. But the reality is, it's just a color on a part of your body. Regardless of what your gender is, that's all it is, and that's all it has to be. It's pure, it's beautiful, it's a way to express, I love green, so I'm going to paint my nails green today. Why not? It's incredible, regardless of your gender.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think are some of the biggest fashion faux pas that we can make, though? Are there any? Is there any way that you can go wrong in fashion? Through op shop fashion?
Yeah, is there anything that's really like wrong, or is everything wrong right?
Yeah.
I think, like the only wrong fashion is the straight man in the two-piece suit with the white shirt, right? Like that's been done for the last 200 years. We don't need to see that. Everything else is okay. I think one of my idols, Iris Apfel, who has the big round glasses like this, which I wore today because they come from an op shop. But Iris says, just try, wear whatever you want. And the fashion police are not going to take you away. And if they do, maybe you'll have some fun.
We were going to ask who some of your biggest fashion inspirations were.
Yeah. So Iris Apfel, for those who don't know, she's over 100 and has been a designer for her whole life and has wardrobes and warehouses of fashion, and is certainly a maximalist. Bracelets all up the arm, the big glasses, the bright color around. I think probably my number one idol. And then I love there's an Instagram page and a whole heap of media that goes with that called Advanced Style, which again is all these kind of mostly women, but older people that just kind of don't give anything anymore, and they just wear whatever they want and play with fashion and play with style. And, they've been collecting for years. So they're probably some of my top fashion icons. But I guess similar to what you were saying before, Bev, it's those people that just kind of challenge the status quo that are the ones, even if they're walking down the street, I'll stop and say, you look fantastic. And they're the kind of ordinary people that, I think inspire me to try something new and keep being creative and fun.
Yeah, I have this thing in the back of my mind is when I do see someone fabulous, it's really important to tell them. And it creates so much joy in that moment that, we recognize the creativity, the individuality, and we celebrate it.
The courage as well.
The courage, and we should just call it out in a beautiful way. And I do often, you'll see sometimes when I see rings on people that I love, and I'll just say to them, I love that ring, or your nails look amazing, or, I love that coat. As we're talking earlier about house hunting, we were looking at a house the other day, and the agent had that fabulous coat on. Oh. Yeah, she had this amazing coat, and I was just like, I love that coat.
Can I borrow your coat?
Can I borrow your coat? But it's fantastic to have those conversations with people who are just being beautiful and individual, and I think it makes them feel joyful too by being complimented.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm such a complimenter. Like it's very hard for me to walk down the street without, telling about 3 or 4 people, oh, I love this about you or this about you. And I think that's probably one of the joys too of being in the north of Melbourne. There are lots of people that are kind of trying new things and being a bit wacky with their fashion, and that inspires me all the more to compliment them and embrace the joy that they're styling on themselves.
Yeah, and we're often missing that joy because we're not being present. We're on our phones, we're walking around, we're not engaging and looking at people and seeing how amazing and beautiful they are, and missing on that opportunity to connect. And fashion does that. Fashion draws you and connects you and enables you to have that wonderful moment and joins us together. I really do believe that, it's something that we can have in common.
That's op shops, right? At their core. And we put the dance music on in the Uniting Op shops, and there are often people who come in who may actually just be for a conversation, but at their core, op shops are places of community where you might be styling and trying different pieces of fashion, or you might just be there to have conversations or a dance or create community. So I've been thinking around this regularly, that op shops are kind of the intersection between community, self-expression, and fashion and secondhand goods, and that's like, maybe garage sales are the same thing when you have a garage sale, but at the core, the op shops are this incredible intersection of community and self-expression together with secondhand. It's a pretty incredible space to work in, and having been here since 14 years old, I guess I'm yeah, I'm the one that can say that and be proud of it and know it, because I've seen it for 14 years.
Yeah, you're the proof in the pudding.
Jacob, it's hard to survive these days. Cost of living is crazy. We're trying to pinch pennies wherever we can. I honestly, the thought of going and buying new clothing in my own mind at the moment, I never even consider it. I'm like, my expendable cash these days is like minimal while I'm on this creative path, and I'm working in hospo casually wherever I can earn a buck, and I'm like hustling in the creative sphere. I don't have a lot of expendable cash, so I never think about buying new clothes. So op shops are definitely a happy place for me. I love going in. You find your hidden gems. And I have my select pieces that live on my coat racks that are, years old now, and I'll pull them out when I want to wear something special. And most of my favorite pieces of clothing are secondhand. Do you have your favorite pieces that maybe you've had for a long time that are really special to you, that you've found as well through op shopping?
I think I am being in the op shop sector. There are so many you see so much stuff come and go, and so I'm not very connected to a lot of things in my wardrobe, but I've got this incredible orange fur coat, this great big orange fur that actually started as a compliment in Portugal. I was at a place called the Thieves Market and saw this French woman trying it on, and she had orange hair and orange glasses and orange nails, and she had this great big orange coat. I was like, it's fabulous. You've got to buy it. You look amazing. And through some kind of language barrier, she understood the compliment. And then half an hour later, she'd left and didn't buy it. So I'd complimented it so much, I felt connected to having to buy the coat.
Yes!
And I've got that coat. It had its own seat on the plane, during COVID. Luckily, I didn't have to pay for it, but it was it's such huge coat, and so I still love that. And there's not very many days in the year that you get to wear something that weighs 20 kilos and is this huge faux fur. But that's probably a standout piece in my wardrobe that I've kept for a couple of years now. I also had an artist, Di Eaton, made me a belt for a fashion parade I was hosting out of the tags from clothes that were made mostly in China. And so put all of these fast fashion tags together and made a belt for an outfit, which is an incredible piece and really, I guess, challenges you and makes you think around fast fashion, and you see kind of all those tags together. So that's another thing it's been in my wardrobe for a couple of years. But, it's the pieces that come with story for me that have stuck around and that I've held on to. Everything else, I'm just like, I'll buy 3 things this week and I'm not one of those people that's 1 thing in, 2 things out. I'm more like, I'll buy 3 and take 1. So it's an ever-growing collection, but yeah.
Love that. When you're talking about the lady in orange, I love seeing those people that, resonate with one color. You see a lot of like purple ladies, the purple lippy, the purple eye, the purple top, the purple jumper, the purple pants. Green. Yes. Green is my favorite color, and I think there's a lady that lives in New York, and there's a YouTube doco about her, and she's called the Green Lady. And like there's a tour of her apartment, and everything in her apartment is green. She only ever wears head to toe green. She's got green in her hair. She's
eyeshadow.
She's adorable. It makes me happy seeing her. Anytime I see a picture of her, she just popped up yesterday, which is why she's at the front of my mind. Yeah, I love it.
I think part of my poly story is that I couldn't commit that much to one color.
Yes.
It just seeped into the other parts of your life.
Yeah.
And talking about those other parts of life, if you're comfortable talking about it, I'd love to hear about the evolution for you personally of your story growing up in Tasmania, some of the influences and some of the struggles you may have had coming into this, and then finding and exploring your own sexuality, your own person, and how that's evolved. Yeah.
An incredible journey. Like, I guess in my mind, I toyed with the idea of being gay, just in kind of the, man versus man. That was the broadness of what I had of gay in my mind as a kid, and that was always there. And the dialogue that existed in Tasmania, particularly as someone that, I was in primary school during the debate of whether or not we should decriminalize homosexuality. So the dialogue that surrounded being gay in Tassie was not very positive. And, the most positive it would be that, they're gay, but I'm okay with that. And it's like, that was kind of what I grew up around. Then obviously Catholic school and the stories that exist around, sin and et cetera, that comes with religion were all there. So for me, I held it down as long as I could until I got to a point where, I moved to Melbourne and came out and lived this this wonderful gay life. And I was so suppressed that I was dating a volunteer in the op shop for a few weeks, and I didn't even know we were dating. And I broke this poor guy's heart because we were dating and we were going to quiz nights, and he came over one night and I was like, "Oh, my friend can drive you home." And he was like, "No, I want to stay." And I was like, "No, like don't worry about getting an Uber later." Or it wouldn't have been an Uber then, but my friend will drop you off on the way. And then kind of realized later that he was gay, and he thought we were like starting to come together in this relationship. And I was so closeted and suppressed that I just didn't even realize that was an option.
And obviously you don't identify as just a gay man anymore. Tell us more. How has this evolution continued for you?
Yeah, I think once you kind of start to break down those societal barriers, it's then like, oh, the world hasn't ended and this is okay and I'm safe and I'm happy and the people around me still love me. And then it's kind of like, well, what else is okay? And so I'm not quite sure kind of the order of what came next. It was probably, non-monogamous relationships that came next, and exploring that, and then realizing that, oh, well, maybe, I did have girlfriends when I was in high school, and maybe I am attracted to more than just dudes, and kind of exploring that and opening that up, and starting to date queer people and trans people and women again, and opening what that meant to me. And so it was kind of just this natural progression. And then the non-binary element to my gender and the poly element to the way that I love, I remember having these visions that talking to a poly person and them explaining the way that they loved, and that they kind of had overflowing love for multiple people, and they loved people equally but in completely different ways, and they were loving people in for all different reasons, but the same depth of love and the same commitment and passion, and it meant the same for them. And I heard this story, and it reminded me of when I was a toddler, and I had two cousins that were sisters, and I used to say to one, "Oh, you're my favorite," and then 5 minutes later, "Oh, you're my favorite," to the other one. And community around me used to make fun of me as a kid, and it was like I was playing them off each other. But for me as a child, it was never that. Like, I'm going to name them, so maybe they'll listen. I love Kate and Elise incredibly equally as my cousins, and they are both my favorite, and they're very different women, and they've got very different gifts and talents in life and very different ways of connecting with the world, but they're sisters and they're my cousins, and I love them, and they were both my favorite cousin. And I kind of realized then as an adult that is the love and the capacity that I have as a human, and that actually, I can fully connect and love people for their fullness and what they bring to the world. But for me, I'm able to love multiple people in that same way. And so I might have, you know, I think my friends count a record of 10 people in my life at any one time that bring me great joy, and we connect in different ways that may be sexual, maybe not sexual, maybe intimate, maybe not intimate, but there's a deep love and an affinity with each other for all different ways. So yeah, I remember that one kind of wide awakening of just hearing the story of another person and realizing, oh, this connects to my own life. So I don't think Kate and Elise know that they're the example of me learning that I'm polyamorous, but they will now.
They do now.
Oh, I love that. We've
They
discussed
do now.
we've discussed polyamory on the potty before, and it's fascinating. I mean, it's the freedom as well, breaking down as many barriers as you can, and and we've done counselling sessions with I think our second interview here on the podcast, Ashley Macklin, psychosexual therapist, and his the work that we did with him opened up so many new communication channels between us. Like, we would talk about many different boundaries and things, even stuff that wouldn't relate to us, but we would explore everything. And that would, in turn, we would have conversations about things that maybe we wouldn't have had conversations about before. What if we did this? What would happen? What if this happened? How would that affect our relationship? And it allowed us to to know ourselves and each other on a really deep level as well.
And
one of the things I love, this constant challenge, right?
Yes.
This constant kind of conversation and pushing yourself into a new realm, and allowing deeper growth with individuals because of that.
Because often we push against change, right? We push against the whole fact of change, but that's where the power of change brings newness to our lives, and we just continually sometimes won't want that. And the discussions we were having with Ash was that being closed off to certain things sometimes comes from a position of pain sometimes, or fear that's happened in your own life. Like you, I've had a Christian and a religious background, and that shaped my thinking very much so in a traditional way, and that overhanging sin and what you can and can't do, and that finality of that often dictated the way that I viewed relationships. And once you get rid of that veil and push that away and realize I'm still breathing, I'm still okay, I haven't been struck by lightning and it's all good. The world of possibilities of connection is there. And you're right, sexual or non-sexual, it's about having those wonderful opportunities of being open to meeting other people in different facets and experiencing that joy of connection.
And allowing ourselves to connect with other people,
Yes.
still knowing that, we're not going to lose each other. We know each other. We have such a deep connection.
No,
We constantly communicate with each other.
You're stuck with me.
Yeah, you're stuck with me too.
But having,
How beautiful. What a moment to witness.
What a moment. It's true. It's so romantic, isn't it? You're stuck with me. Yeah,
you're stuck.
You're stuck now, mate. With me forever. No, it's sad to think that if I'd continued the way I was, I would have closed myself off to so much wonderful experiences in life. And it does sadden me sometimes seeing people stuck in that. Especially the aggression that we see and hear in our community against our community also. I just feel sad for them. Yeah, I do. I feel sad that they're not experiencing that freedom.
They're missing out on a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, and people make those choices for all different reasons.
Correct.
And I think sometimes safety is a big factor, and if there are people listening that are maybe not brave enough or ready to take that step, that's also okay, and there's time and place to do that. But there is joy on the other side, and I would encourage everyone to kind of challenge those barriers. But there's time and place to do that, and you need to be in a space where you feel safe. And for me, that wasn't Tassie, where I was able to kind of push those boundaries.
Yeah. And for me, it just took a long time, and married to a woman till I was 30, where I felt brave enough and safe enough, to be able to make some really hard decisions. And you're correct. you need to have that safety net, because it can be pretty scary when you jump. Yeah,
I would say as well to anyone that's listening that also is struggling or doesn't feel safe or ready yet to start expressing themselves in more vulnerable ways. You can always reach out to us. We are here for you anywhere. You can message us. We will respond. We are there for you. We are your friends. We love you. You are our family. We are all a family. We are all here for each other. So yeah. Please hit us up if you're struggling in any sense. Jacob, one thing I still struggle with sometimes is religion in my family. I also grew up with religion in my family. There's still some pretty deeply entrenched religion in my family. How has that side of things been for you as the beautiful queer person that you are?
It's I really love getting to like the second date or the third date, and then dropping the fact that I have a Bachelor of Theology, and seeing how many times the person convulses and
starts throwing holy water.
yeah, exactly. Literally the other day, someone kind of made an excuse to leave, and I was like, "That's done." And I get it, right? Like, there's a lot of trauma held by our community justifiably because of experiences that have happened in religious environments. So I totally get it. I guess I'm quite lucky that I wasn't raised in a religious household. So my parents baptized me Anglican because they didn't know where the Catholic Church was. So that's kind of the extent of religion. And I was brought to a Catholic school because my mother thought we kind of got to a social standing and a social place that was too good for public school. And so, and that's a separate can of worms that we'll keep closed, but just acknowledge it for what it is right now. And so that's kind of how I got into Catholic school. And for me, the reason that I became religious right from the beginning was because I was already volunteering as a primary school kid for different programs. And I realized that that's what the church enabled. And there were all of these community service and goodness activities that the church enabled. And then the theology behind that I found really fascinating. And so I kind of got quite heavily involved in the church through great people and good stories and the goodness of activity. And then went and decided to do a Bachelor of Theology for two reasons. One being that kind of the goodness that comes out of good people and good theology, and then the second being, as someone who was in school during 9/11 and Islamophobia and all of that, I kind of wanted to understand religions from a literacy perspective, I guess, and really kind of understand people's worldview. So for me, my bachelor is really around different religions in the world and how they interact with each other, and not necessarily about indoctrination. And so I've always had this super intellectual understanding of religion that existed in my life before my understanding of what it was to be a queer person. And so it's been really interesting. And I guess, Matt, I don't have an answer to your question fundamentally. Like I don't go to church or see myself as religious now, but I do still have this deep intellectual understanding of religion and interest in religions. And working for Uniting, Uniting is this really incredible Australian church created, in Australia for Australians, that is incredibly left-leaning and makes all of the same political stances that I would make as an individual. I don't think there was a Uniting church in the country that didn't have up a vote yes banner. And, there's so many amazing queers that are ordained in the Uniting Church. And I remember trying to decide whether I wanted to work so directly for a church social service when I came over to Melbourne. I went into a Uniting shop and picked up a magazine that was the church's magazine. And I was like, oh, this will be interesting. This will be it will tell me what I need to know around whether or not this is an organization that can embrace my queer identity and allow that. And there was like an 8-page long format story of one of their ministers that had transitioned from male to female and stayed with her wife, and that her and her wife were still involved in the church community. And there were stories in this article about how the church community was thriving all the more through going through that transition together. And the church community was so proud of what they thought was, they all felt part of that transition because it was their minister that had gone through the journey. And I don't know that minister, and I can't remember her name, but I just had this, all right, this is a safe space to be. And this is where, religion might get it right sometimes. So yeah, that's a kind of long-winded response that doesn't really end in a solidified point.
It was an amazing response. That's what it's all about. That's what it should be about. That inspires me, I feel like in some parts I've been burned by religion, and usually sometimes when religious topics get brought up, I have quite an aversion, an impulse to just I don't want to be involved in this conversation. But there are so many beautiful elements, and I would also love to study more like what you have done, because I'd love to have more of an understanding of different religions, because for your own life, you can take pieces from everywhere and make them part of you, which is what I love. You've studied religion too.
The same. And I, like you, love how they're all interconnected and then the similarities of it, and trying to find those similarities. Working as a youth pastor as I did, I grew up in the Uniting Church. I was there when the Presbyterian and Methodist Church joined. And you're correct, it was a momentous moment when these two churches came together in Australia for Australians with a new vision, and they had such a social justice mindset. I got to know my pastor at the time, Reverend Jim Gavardis, and who was American, who came over to be in country Victoria. They brought a lot of Americans in that late 70s, early 80s. And another American, Cindy Pattershall Baker, who was in Cobden close to me, were radically different to what we'd ever seen in Australia. And they were already ahead of the curve, where they were seeing how, as they would say, God was moving and changing the church. And there was a lot of debate in that early times, in that late 70s, early 80s, on homosexuality. There were papers. Cindy actually produced a paper for Synog at that period of time, debating, for them at the time, Synog were trying to work out about whether they could have ordained pastors who were out at that point, gay men and gay women. And the Uniting Church was one of the first churches to really embrace women as pastors. So I did grow up under a really better liberal sense, but then I got involved in the more charismatic side and left the Uniting Church, and that's where I went down a bit of a slippery slope. For me, anyway, moving away from a more liberal understanding and went to a very conservative understanding and charismatic understanding. The charismatic part, probably not so bad, but demons and stuff like that, that's where it all started to go wrong for me. And I went down the fundamental path and sort of lost my way.
I find the charismatic parts of church so interesting, because they're all about self-expression and letting out what kind of is innately the call within you until a point, and there's other things that they don't want to.
Exactly. It's the fundamental parts of it. Being charismatic is wonderful. Being charismatic and expressing your love for anything is amazing. And, the charismatic movement within the church at the time was fabulous. It was great. People could get up and dance and move again, and as we should, and express ourselves, even as queer people. It was very, in line with that. It was just unfortunate I moved away from more of the fact that I was broken, and believing that I was broken, and that I don't believe that anymore. I believe that I'm just beautiful and perfect the way I was. But I went down that broken, and I needed to be fixed. And that changed what I started to seek out when it came to religions, and looking at the ones that said I could be fixed. And then and that's where it changed.
I fully considered being a minister or a priest or a monk or something, that someone who took a vow of celibacy or chastity, because it was a way that I didn't have to have a false version of myself, but also I didn't have to jump into the fullness of myself, and it was this kind of safe middle ground, which, I'm sure history tells us that there are many people that have made that choice. But for me, in being in Tassie, that was one of the ways that I really kind of thought around joining the church, was not so much because of my love of Jesus, whether or not
Yeah.
it was there at the time, but it was kind of this place where I could not be forced into a heterosexual marriage,
Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. And I took the left road and was forced into a heterosexual marriage.
And now look at you with this cutie patootie beside you.
I know. Look at this cutie patootie.
What, me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, come on.
And we've talked about this other pods too, but yeah, at much more peace than I've ever been, than I was in my heterosexual marriage, and more peace with my faith journey than I ever have been. Than I was in the past. But look at this cutie patootie.
Oh,
I know.
thanks, baby.
I'm a very lucky man.
So am I.
When I joined Uniting Vic, you'll like this story.
Yeah.
Two people told me this same story and both incredibly queer advocates across Melbourne. They'd hired a church to do an event in, and it was not a religious event at all. And they got there and met with the minister. And this is two separate people, but the same church. And the minister said to them, right, well, you can move anything. The space is completely yours. Make it yours. Do whatever you like. There are only two things in this building that you can't move.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay. And one was the crucifix, and the second was the rainbow flag that was beside the crucifix.
Yeah.
And so for them as queer people, it was this whole, wow, that version of love and this version of love are equal to you, and you see the great goodness in both of them. And so as queer people, they felt incredibly justified and valued in that moment. But that's kind of something I love about the Uniting Church as well,
Yeah. That's empowering. When you see those two things together are the exactly same love. It gets me really emotional because that's the truth, it's the truth.
Yeah, Bev, I understand that. That's what it's all about. The love of religion that we see across all religions is the trueness of human connection, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're so right. Absolutely right. Now, Jacob, I'd love to learn more about the op shops that you work with, where we can find them, maybe some general tips on how people can go and find the best bits of clothing and how we can express ourselves,
Because often we think they're all picked over, so where's the best ones with the best sort of clothing?
Where can we find you? How can people start?
Well, obviously, Uniting op shops are the best ones. We're just going to say that up front from the beginning. Yeah. We're relatively new in terms of we're just coming together as a network of stores and renovating our stores, but also some of our stores have been going since the 60s, so it's this kind of mix of both. But we exist across metropolitan Melbourne and regional Victoria. So Bendigo got a couple of great stores, Ballarat, Geelong, Point Lonsdale, all the way out to Sale and across Metro Melbourne. So the best way would be to look us up on Instagram, Uniting Up Shops, and then come and visit us. We're open 7 days a week, 9:30 till 5. So plenty of opportunities for everyone to either come in hungover on the Sunday morning or late on the Saturday afternoon to get your outfit. In terms of tips and tricks, I think
how do we find the best ones?
It's going regularly, right? Like there's something coming out in op shops every single moment. Like we're continuously processing, people are continuously donating, and so there's continuously stock coming out, and so just calling in for 5 minutes as you're driving past actually is your greatest chance of finding something. I did an interview for ABC in Hobart some years ago now, and there was a theory announced by the ABC is that if you're looking for something, you'll never find it. But if you just pop in and to go off our early conversation, lean into the Holy Spirit of op shopping, then you're going to kind of find something. And I think that's probably for me the best place to kind of just try, just come in, see what you can find. Maybe it's a $4,000 pair of Prada shoes that has come in just as you've turned up.
Does that
Or,
happen?
Yeah,
or
does that
as
actually happen?
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah?
definitely.
Oh, wow, like
Wow.
incredible designer pieces.
Yeah, one of my favorite stories is from Hobart again, but this original pair of Coco Chanel heels, and they were tiny because they were like original. They were size 4 or something, and these two big, beary gay men loved them and wanted them, and told all their friends about them, and then came in a week later and they were still there, and brought them to put on their bookshelf at home.
Ah, I love that. I love that they're just sitting on a bookshelf to be admired. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Ah,
I discovered when we were doing A View from the Bridge and we were looking for it, I could shop.
which was a play we did a couple of years ago for anyone that's confused. Yes.
Confused, yes.
Yeah.
Sorry about confusing everyone.
No,
Yes.
no. Sometimes it's good to give context when you say things like that.
People are just thinking, what? Bevan's standing there getting a view from the bridge.
Yes. A View from the Bridge was a gorgeous play we
Gorgeous
did.
play.
Yeah.
I op shopped online. Can you op shop online at your op shops?
We don't do online op shops. We're kind of, the phrase I use all the time is keeping the opportunity in the op shop. So we don't take those bargains and gems out of the store. And so really kind of allowing the bargains and gems to be in the store. I think for those listeners that are Melbourne based, this podcast might come out prior to the opening of our New Brunswick op shop. So we're opening in Brunswick on the 1st of December. So there's a bit of editing pressure for you, Matt, to get it out. So
oh no, it'll be out before then. Absolutely. Yeah. No, I believe if you're listening to this now, it will probably be within the first couple of weeks of November. So which correlates with your garage sale weekends as well. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the National Garage Sale Trail is coming up, which will be, those weekends in December. So National Garage Sale Trail is an idea of as many garage sales in Australia at one time. It exists across 2 weekends in November, December. And the goal is multifaceted. It's around creating community. It's around sustainability. For a lot of people, it's around raising money in this economy at the moment. People need some funds. So everyone check out National Garage Sale Trail's website. Look at events near you. There's a whole range of different events from Nonna and Nonno's garage to fashion retailers that are doing end-of-line stock. So National Garage Sale Trail Weekend, I also did a podcast with them, which came out on the 28th of October. So that gives you a few more tips and tricks for op shopping as well. So you should be able to download that from the National Garage Sale Trail. And every Uniting op shop will have some kind of National Garage Sale Trail event as well. Maybe a bit more extra $2 stuff. Some $2 pearls for Bev.
Hey,
yes.
Never can I have enough pearls. I'm just saying. Hey, if I just love it so much, is it still volunteer based for people who are working in there in your op shops?
Yeah, definitely. So our kind of 3 core taglines are discover, come shop with us, donate. We're always looking for stock, and you can donate to any of our stores at any time, and volunteer. So particularly with 7-day-a-week trade, I know a lot of people work full-time, but there's the opportunity to maybe do 4 hours once a month over the weekend. And it's so much fun in an op shop, and such a diverse range of community. You've got 90-year-olds with 14-year-olds and professionals, and coming together just to have a bit of a dance, display some stock, and raise some money for really great community programs. So yeah, definitely come volunteer, Bev. Imagine the 3 of us in an op shop.
Oh, we've got to make this. We've got to make this happen.
We do.
Maybe that's our next podcast is live from in store.
Yes.
Oh yes. We'll set up. We'll get the pod ready.
Yes.
Bring the mics.
Yeah.
Well, you're used to doing OBs with radio.
Yes, I did a lot of broadcasts in radio. Yeah, it'd just be like old times.
It's like old times.
We need to have a merch moment. Come and
yes. Have a parade.
Yes.
Can we do a fashion parade, please? That'd be great.
We can do a fashion parade for sure. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm living for this. I'm there. I reckon it's great.
I would actually dream of walking down a runway. Even if it's a runway at an op shop, that would be a dream. Be fun with people on either side and all the little seats everywhere. Wouldn't that be fun?
Yeah. And that's the challenge to everyone listening. Let's get off our couches. Let's get off our phones. Let's go and volunteer. Let's meet some amazing people. Let's make connections, enjoy fashion and have some fun.
Yeah.
And that's definitely a way of being present.
And also in the scheme of just getting off your phone and getting off the couch.
Yes.
Get off your phone and maybe instead of buying something that's new on Amazon because it's easy and you can do it from your couch, go to an op shop because it is fun. You might find a gem and it's community. It's bringing us together.
Take your friends with you.
It's fun.
Go to a garage sale.
Yes.
If for those who aren't living in Melbourne and are still listening to this, there's a website called Charitable Recycling Australia. So that lists all the op shops in the country that are members of Charitable Recycling, all the ways you can volunteer and donate as well. So in Melbourne, there's opportunities there on that website. So Charitable Recycling Australia is the one to go to. But if you are in Victoria, then it's Uniting Op Shops. You don't have to go all the way to that website. You can come direct to us.
Yes. Exactly. I thought you were going to say, if you're not in Melbourne, you're missing out.
I don't
know. There are too many beautiful.
Political.
Yes, it is.
It's true.
Jacob, if there is any final words you could say to our community today, now's your chance. Go for it.
Yeah. Look, I'm just so grateful for my journey through life. So grateful that I've got voice and pride in who I've become. I'm so grateful for the queer community, the secondhand community, the op shop for community for always surrounding me and loving me. Actually, just this week, I had one of my original op shop volunteers pass away, and that kind of really brought home to me the community and the love and care that is in op shops, but also the like wackiness of the community, right? Of this person who was in her 70s at the time being managed by a 20-year-old and having this great love and connection for each other. And so just in terms of final words, it's thank you to the op shop community. No matter what op shop it is across the country, everyone's creating great community, safe spaces for a range of different people and minorities, and bringing to life stories like mine. So I'm super proud to be a part of the op shop community, super proud to be part of the queer community and the secondhand thrift community, and I love the intersection where they come together.
Thank you, gorgeous. We appreciate having you in the pod so very much. And if you're listening, go out there and support your local op shop and you will have so much fun in doing so. Thank you, Jacob.
Thanks, mate.
And look out for our next one, live from the op shop.
Woo! Yeah, exactly. Live from the op shop.
I'll bring the chair.
Yeah, we'll bring the ugly chair.
We'll bring the ugly
chair here in the studio.
We'll probably sell it while we're there.
True. Yeah, we probably will. It needs to be sold, actually. I think it's about time we parted ways with that old thing.
What are you talking about, me?
No, never.
I wondered the same thing.
Exactly. Thank you.
Bye, gorgeous.
Bye.
And
thank you. Bye.
And thank you for joining us for another episode of Two Gay Peas in a Podcast this week. You can find us on all our social channels at Two Gay Peas, YouTube, Insta, Facey. Yes, we are on TikTok. And hit us up. Give us a like. Give us a thumbs up. And we really appreciate you supporting us so much. We'll see you next week.
See you next week. We love you all. Bye.
Bye.